Hey everybody, it's G here, and this is a request video. A number of you have asked me if I could provide my instant dub techno rack, basically, as I call it, because, instant dub chord rack, because that's what it does. Pretty much you drop it in on a chord and you pretty much got that sound. Not much effort, as long as you have like a couple saw waves in or a chord sample. That's kind of what I got going on here. I just have a chord sample and some drum sample, so it's not so boring. Something in the background. So what I'm going to do here is, right now I have third-party plugins in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild this with just Ableton stock plugins and try to emulate a lot of this stuff, because a couple of these things are just for color, so it doesn't matter what they are. And then I'll provide there'll be a link for it down in the description, so you can download for free. You can donate if you feel the urge to. That always helps the channel. The more donations I get, and more videos I can make. The different stuff I can do, really. I mean, I've had a couple of requests to make some stuff in Massive. I don't own Massive, so that's gonna be kind of hard for me to do. I might have to use a friend's computer or something to do that with, but we'll see. We'll see what comes of that. Anyways, this is the dub chord effects rack as it is now. There's EQ, the saturator, auto filter, which is the pre 9.5 or 9.6 whenever they change the filters around. That being said, make sure I say this now before I forget. I'm using Ableton Live Suite 9.6. So if you're not using this particular version, this may not work. This rack may not be able to. You may not be able to import this rack, but you can use this video as a guide to grab the devices yourself and just put them in, and just copy the settings or whatever. So, anyways, I'm going to expand all these so we know what we have, and I'll go over each one individually, why I have it in here, kind of what it's doing as we create the new rack, because it'll be easier that way. Alright, so we're going to turn this off now. Alright, and I'm just going to crank this up real quick. The first thing I have in here, EQ. So I'm going to go into grab EQ8. If you don't have EQ8, there's plenty of free EQs out there that you can use, or if you're using a different, DAW, DAW, or whatever, something that's not Ableton. Whatever your EQ is, you use that. And I turn everything off to make sure I'm in oversampling. This gives you better sound quality. Ableton for the EQ. And I put it at 160. Slow, like not a complete cut. Because I want some of that low end to kind of bleed through just a little bit, but I want it to be rolled off. So that's the first thing I do. And then the next thing is saturation. I'm going to use Ableton Saturator. This is also in high quality mode, so make sure you check that. It'll give you a little better harmonics out of it. I have my default as solenoid fold. That's kind of their version of tape emulation. So like if you're driving this to like reel-to-reel tape or cassette deck tape and just driving the input really hard, and what this is emulating. But you have to note that this adds about 3 dB of volume, so I don't back it off because it's not a big deal for me. I like a little bit of the distortion that comes in from it if it's peaking, but right now it's all right. It may be a problem later. We may have to back it off, but just keep in mind that when you put it on solenoid fold, it's going to add 3 dB of volume. So, and then the next thing that's like kind of what makes this rack work, besides the delay and reverbs, is the filter. Now I'm using the older version of Live 9's filter before it was changed and had the different models in there. That's because I think the bandpass is better for this type of sound that I personally make. You may like the newer one, you may not like Ableton's auto filter, whatever. I like it, so I'm just going to copy from this one because it's easy. I'm going to paste it in there. Now, this has no high quality or anything like that. So, alright, and now next is going to be a delay. And I link them because I'm not really trying to have a different delay. I want it just to be like an echo delay. And I put it at 3/16, which is roughly a dotted 1/8 delay. So it's adds like a little extra bit, kind of off, a little like kind of. Think of it as a bit of a swing. It's not really a swing, but it's close to a swing. And then I put it into repitch mode. What this does is it emulates tape delay. Now you won't really notice it a whole lot. You turn the feedback up. Like the pitch kind of changes slightly, but it's not a whole lot. You really notice it when you change the delay times. Like if you ever listen to like Richie Houghton or like anything from Minus and then the type of delays that they do, this is kind of what they're doing. A lot of times they're just switching between the delay times. I'll put this at about 50% because the way I want it to work is delay, 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 delay. So like gonna bunch, almost delay until the next hit, but it's slowly gonna fade out just before it. I'll leave the dry wet at 50%. But again, this is to taste. Do what you want. This is just kind of how I do it. The next is a reverb. Now I have this reverb saved as a preset for myself because lots of trial and error, and this is kind of how I got the sound, that I have, is playing around with Ableton's reverb. I tried like Max's reverb and some other different reverb VSTs and whatnot, but I ended up just finding what I wanted in this one. I switch between eco and high quality mode, and I do this because it adds eco kind of doesn't have as high quality a sound, but sometimes it adds a little bit of like artifacts like dirt, so it kind of gives it a little more analog feel. Doesn't make it analog obviously because it's digital, but it adds a little bit of spice to it sometimes. Maybe you may want it, you may not. And the key things with this reverb, the way I have it set up, is basically going to adjust the high cut and the input processing, the pre-delay times, the decay time, the diffuse and reflect. Those are what I pretty much touch all the time. So then from there, I believe I have another saturation. So this one's on solenoid fold, and this right here is kind of on another like tape digital one. So, but what we're gonna do for this, we're just gonna put another saturator on here. And this one we're going to do a soft sine. As you can tell, it bumped the volume up a little bit. So I don't mind a little bit of clipping through here. Like it really clips on this filter a lot with this particular sound. So I might come in and add another EQ point in here to adjust like those frequencies that are up here that are kind of peaking. And then here, I might mess with the drive and the bias and which frequency it's like accenting, but I might not. I might leave it on there. I might turn soft clip on and drive it a little bit, but for this demonstration, I'm not going to do that. So after that, I believe we have the glue compressor. Yep. So that in here, and this is just working as a peak grabber. The glue compressor is an emulation of the classic SSL desk compressor. It's pretty good. I don't think the Ableton version of it is as good as the like VST version of it that Titanic does. It's pretty similar in a lot of aspects, but my hair is just, I don't know what I'm doing with my hair. I don't think it's as good. It works, but I mean it's great for gluing buses together. But I use it on this just because it adds a little bit of characteristic to the sound. I may have this go anywhere between 0 and 5 dB of gain reduction. I may bump up the output. I might not. Maybe if I do, I'm going to turn soft clip on and get it to where it's maybe just barely turning on there. What this is doing is just adding a little bit of artifacts and harmonics to the sound a little bit, emulating analog clipping a little bit. If you have it off, it just straight digital clips and it doesn't work as well. It doesn't sound as good. Next, I have Redux. And I have this for this reason right here, the bit reduction. This basically goes from 16-bit, to 12-bit, which is kind of a lot of the classic drum machines like the SP1200 and the MPCs that everyone used in like the 80s and 90s. And so it adds a little bit of crunch and artifacts to it to give that more old school analog kind of feel. But it also adds a bit of noise to it too, like if you go real low, you hear that noise. And sometimes I go down to 8 bits and for that noise and that degradation of sound. I may layer it, something else, but for the most part I may do that. I tend to just stay between 12 and 16, depends on how smooth I want the sound. Then lastly, I have erosion on here. What erosion does, it's kind of like an artifact generator, or a sound colorer, and what it does is I put it in white noise mode, and it like dirties up the sound a lot. I use this on hi-hats a lot, or overdrive, but for this I like doing it because with a combination of these two, you can really muddy up the sound so it sounds really like the highs sound just real crunched, right? You may want to put another compressor on here. I don't have it because I may do some EQing beforehand. The point of this rack is just to plop it in. You have the sound, you're kind of there with a lot less work involved. And so what I do from here is I select them all by clicking, shift clicking, and I go group, Control Z or Control G or Command G, depending on what you're on. So I can have some macros in here. And with the macros, what I do is I map the cutoff here. So all my essential things I know I'm going to want to adjust are going to be right here, and I don't have to go into each one of these plugins and add that in here. So I'm going to put my normal ones I would put on here. So for here is the we're going to map the bit depth here. It's really crazy. Back up to on there. Here we're gonna map the frequency out. So you can kind of see what that does there. And so we got 4 more down here. So some others I may add in here. I'll add in here. You can change them anytime. You can just click the map here. Anything in green you can map to any one of these macros, and you can map multiple things to these macros. So if you want 2 things to be moving, and you can have moving into like opposite to each other or with each other at different values, because that's what you would do here is you would adjust the value of which the minimum value that the knob goes to, maximum value that the knob goes to. You can do some really interesting stuff. So I'm going to add in maybe a drive of this first saturator in here. It's up so we get something. And on the reverb, I'm going to add in decay time, use amount, and maybe the input processing frequency. On the decay time up a little bit. We're gonna bring. And I kind of color code them just for whatever, Aim at something that I know. I call this noise. Adds noise in there. That's what I'm using it for. It does more than that, but there. And this is called. I'm horrible at spelling. I don't even know if I spelled it right, but I don't want to look like an idiot that much on here, so I'm just going to paste it in here. anything that has to do with noise, I'm going to add anything that has to do with coloration, I'm going to give it here, greenish blue here. Just so I know, like, hey, these colors here, these here, I know they're going to have something to do with coloring the sound, and then the reverb, I'm going to leave gray because I just think of dark hallways when I think of reverb. And then that's done. That's pretty much the rack. Now again, you can change any of these in here. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. So save this to rack. So just look for this in the link in the description below, and you'll be able to download it and have fun with it. And remember, like I said, this is made with Ableton Live 9.6, so it may not work if you're not using an older version. It may not work for you. You may have to manually go in and create it with whatever version of Ableton you're using. If you're not using Ableton and you're watching this, just kind of use this as a guide. You know, use whatever your favorite tools are, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in this order. I know people who do a delay after the reverb. I know people who do delay before and after. I know people who do delay into the reverb and then they do a send or a bus delay as well. That's just all about adding expansion and defining your sound. There's like, you know, there's no wrong way, no right way, within reason. I mean, there's definitely wrong ways to do things and there's super right ways to do it, but again, it comes down to sound and what you like, and that's all that matters. As long as you enjoy the sound of it and you're having fun with it, that's the key. So again, thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you thought it sucked, give it a thumbs down. You know, just let me know what you think. Leave some comments and maybe some pointers or tips or something else you may like to see. And you know, make sure to donate if you want to help support the channel, because more the channel supported, either with donations, thumbs ups, comments, subscribing, retweets, and all that other kind of stuff, the more I'm able to do this kind of stuff for you. So again, thanks for watching. Later.